The storm cells of Titan raged in perpetual slow-motion fury outside the viewport, a swirling ochre hellscape of methane and ice. Inside the reinforced habitation module of the UES Vanguard, the atmosphere was just as cold, but sterile and silent. The only sounds were the low hum of life support and the ragged, wet breathing of the thing strapped to the interrogation table. It was a prisoner, designated XT-1, to Sergeant Kalen Vance and his fire team. It was a nightmare given form. 7 feet of corded muscle sheathed in scales the color of bruised twilight. A head, elongated and draconic, with a crest of sharp, bony plates running from its brow to the nape of its neck. Its hands, currently bound by mag cuffs, ended in obsidian claws that could, and had, shredded plasteel. One of its golden, slit-pupilled eyes was swollen shut from the capture. A dark, coppery blood, smelling of ozone and metal, seeped from a gash on its torso where a plasma round had grazed it. They had caught it on the shores of the Ligeia Mare, a black sea of hydrocarbons, where it was apparently taking geological samples. The fight had been brief, brutal, and cost 2 good Marines their lives. Now, it was Vance's turn to get answers. He didn't expect it to speak. He expected hisses, clicks, perhaps telepathic screams. Did not expect the voice that emerged from its lipless mouth when he activated the universal translator. It was a deep, resonant baritone, layered with a sibilant rasp, and it spoke perfect, unaccented English. "You build your nests in the most desolate of places," it said, its one good eye fixed on Vance. "You scurry from rock to rock, so proud of your little flames. Hush, you have not changed." Vance's blood ran colder than the vacuum outside. "What are you? Why are you in our system?" A low rattling sound, a parody of laughter, echoed in its chest. "Your system? You have the arrogance of a child who finds an abandoned castle and proclaims himself king?" The interrogation stretched for hours. The creature, which called itself a Cathar, was defiant, its pride a palpable force in the small room. It was a scout, it admitted, a forerunner, but it was the why that eluded them. Until Vance, in a fit of frustration, held up a data slate showing an artist's rendering of a medieval knight slaying a dragon. "You see? This is what we do to monsters," he snarled. The Cathar's demeanor shifted instantly. Its arrogance melted away, replaced by a chilling ancient sorrow. Its one good eye stared at the image, and for a moment, Vance saw not a monster, but a being witnessing the ghost of its own genocide. "Monsters," it repeated, the word a poison on its tongue. "You have always been so skilled at naming your prey. Let me show you what your monsters remember." It did not need the data slate. It projected the memories directly from its mind, a horrifying telepathic broadcast that flooded the minds of everyone in the room. Vance was no longer on Titan. He stood on a primordial Earth under a younger, hotter sun. He saw the Cathar not as monsters, but as a majestic, sapient race. He saw their great crystalline cities woven into the mountain ranges, their scholars studying the stars, their artists creating symphonies of light and sound. They were the true heirs of the planet, the children of the great Saurian lords, the descendants of what human myth would later call dragons. Then came the humans, not the spacefaring species of today, but smaller, hairier, wielding sharpened stones and fire. At first, the Cathar saw them as clever, if violent beasts. They were tolerated, even studied. But the cleverness became cunning. The violence became an industry. Vance felt the Cathar's collective horror as they watched their kindred be hunted not for food but for sport. He saw magnificent, intelligent beings brought down by packs of screeching hominids, their scales stripped for trophies, their skulls mounted on poles. He felt the searing agony of a spear tipped with a new, cruel metal iron punching through a Cathar's chest. He heard the triumphant, guttural screams of the hunters as a being that could compose poetry and understand the mathematics of orbital mechanics was butchered for the crime of existing. The memories came faster, a torrent of blood and fire. The Cathar were peaceful by nature, their technology geared toward art and science. They were not warriors. And so, faced with a vermin that bred like fungus and killed with a pathological joy, they made a choice. They would not fight a war for their home. They would leave. The final memory was the most devastating of all. Vance stood on a cliff, watching as the last of the great Cathar arcs, colossal vessels of carved stone and bound energy, lifted silently into the sky. Below, the few who were too old, too wounded, or had refused to abandon their ancestral home, looked up. And then they looked down, as the hordes of early humans, seeing the gods depart, swarmed their final sanctuary. The telepathic link did not spare Vance the sounds of their dying thoughts, a chorus of loss and betrayal that echoed across the millennia. The vision ended. Vance was back on Titan, on his knees. He was weeping, his body racked with sobs he could not control. Around him, his hardened Marines were similarly broken, one vomiting in the corner, the horror of their species' original sin laid bare. The Cathar watched them, its own grief, a heavy cloak. We did not seek revenge. Not for a long time. We grieved, we traveled the void, and we built. We built an empire that spans 1,000 stars, an empire you cannot comprehend. We became everything we were meant to be, free from your pestilence. It leaned forward, its voice dropping to a whisper that was more terrifying than any roar. But a debt is still owed. Balance must be restored. We have returned not as refugees, but as reclaimers. We have learned your lessons well. Its golden eye locked with Vance's, and in its depths, Vance saw the future. He saw Cathar huntmasters, clad in armor of star-forged steel, tracking human colonists through alien jungles. He saw their great halls, not adorned with crystal art, but with the skulls of human admirals and politicians. He saw humans, his people, becoming the quarried, the trophies, the screaming, terrified prey. The hunt, the Cathar said, its tone now one of grim, final judgment, begins now. You taught us the sport. We have simply perfected it. We are the reckoning for every one of our kind you ever slaughtered. We are the echo of your own cruelty, returned to you from the dark between the stars. The transmission ended. The creature fell silent, its message delivered. Sergeant Kalen Vance remained on the floor, the salt of his own tears stinging his lips. He had come to Titan a soldier of humanity, proud and defiant. He was leaving it a witness to his species' damnation, carrying back to Earth not a victory, but a death sentence. And the most horrifying part of it all was the chilling, undeniable knowledge that they had earned it.